Hello, everybody. My name is Laurie Smith. And this is Survivor Weekend Check-in video live stream that I like to do, and just to check in with people. Also check in with myself, see how I'm doing on my healing journey, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. I started doing these a while ago, quite a while ago actually, and then I just picked them back up again, just not too long ago. But I just like to be a resource and also sort of get in touch with how I'm feeling and how I'm doing on my healing journey. So hopefully you get something out of it. This is for adult survivors of child abuse, and you know, might be talking about any number of things. So you have to know what's good for you to listen to, and if topics of abuse or child abuse or violence or anything like that bother you, you need to make the right decision for yourself. And because it's early in the morning, right, 10 o'clock. I usually do this at noon, but I had to bump it up this morning because I have some stuff I have to do. So unfortunately, so I had to change the time. So this normally I do this at noon on Saturdays, but it's early this morning, and so I'm still waking up. I'm trying to wake up. I didn't get up till just a little bit ago, and I haven't had enough coffee yet, so you'll have to bear with me. And I just had such a horrible sleep, and I didn't really hardly get any sleep actually last night. So it's going to be a long day, but I'm talking about child abuse issues and for adult survivors of child abuse. So, you have to know what's good for you to listen to. So if you think it might bother you, just turn the channel. You won't be hurting my feelings. Go watch something else. Um, and if you're a survivor of abuse, you need to just check and see if you're safe enough to be listening. Am I safe enough? Do I feel strong enough that I won't, be triggered and then have a horrible day? Because you don't want that. Right? And nobody does. So you have to check with yourself, do an inside check, see how you're feeling. If you think it might bother you, just because you're just not feeling well today or something, you can watch another time, or just don't worry about it, right? Because it's really important to keep yourself safe, and not be triggered, because you might then hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, and you don't want that, and or go backward in your healing journey, and you just don't want that. So make sure you're safe enough. And what I thought I'd talk today about is just some stuff that's been happening this last week for me, which was kind of like memories that keep coming around of the abuse. And some of it is even other stuff like what other people said about the abuse. And it's these are sort of different memories. I don't always remember this stuff. Like, it just comes. And for some reason, something maybe I saw or something I was thinking about during the week will cause these memories to come back around. And until we deal with them, right, they're just going to kind of keep coming back around. They might always, some people do that. There's all sorts of memory techniques that therapists and stuff can do with people. Um, and for me, I'm not seeing a therapist. I'm just doing all my stuff self-help. So I have read a lot of material on, what we can do to stay in the present, not let these memories sort of take over, manifest to the point where we're triggered, having a horrible day. And that's just to remember that we're in the present. This is the present. This is the now, right here, right today. I'm sitting in a chair, I can feel the chair. I can feel the floor. It's all sorts of grounding techniques that we can do if we're having obtrusive kind of flashbacks or obtrusive memories that are disturbing or whatever from the abuse. We can ground ourselves so that we're back in the present. I'm not being abused anymore. That was all from the past. And that does help. It really does. I started doing that a long, long time ago, actually, back in 2009, when I started my healing journey. So I don't have I don't have very many problems with that anymore. Like, for instance, flashbacks, like I'd say complex PTSD, where flashbacks were intrusive. So I'd be sitting at work and flashbacks would come, and all of a sudden I was being abused again. I wouldn't necessarily like make a scene at work, but I'd be sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden I was in the abuse. So then I'd sort of have to calm down and get myself sort of situated to finish my day at work, sort of thing. It was really very horrible. Once I started working on my healing journey stuff and doing the grounding work and sort of thing, breathing work, all sorts of things we can do. For instance, there's suggestions that I got off of a website called Child Abuse Survivor Monument. That's not there anymore. I don't know what he's done with it, but this is just common for survivors of abuse or trauma, really. It doesn't even have to be abuse, just trauma-related stuff. is, if we're having trouble grounding, we can just, look around a room and pick all the blue objects and just count them. There's a blue, there's a blue, there's a blue. Takes your mind off of that flashback or off of that obtrusive memory, and because you're counting stuff in the room, it takes it away long enough where you can disconnect from that really obtrusive memory or flashback. So that's stuff that I actually have used in the past and do. These memories that I've had this last week really aren't that horrible, so I haven't really had any problems with them. But it's just interesting that they're coming around, and I'm like, very interesting, because it's what one of them is from when I was about, I'd say, under 3, and that's hard to get a hold of those memories from that far back for me. Some people actually do, and they have memories of being in the womb, and some people have memories of being like 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old. That most of my memories are from 4 on, and the reason I can tell that is because of what was happening in the family and where we were living. I have clear memories of everything to do with the house, where the furniture was, all that stuff, and the anything before 4 is a bit kind of, just kind of either not there or sort of just very minimal memories. So, but I have a few, and this one memory that it keeps kind of coming around. I had remembered it before. It's not like it's just a brand new memory. It's something that I had remembered before over my lifetime for many, many years. Obviously, I'm 55, so this memory will come now and then, but it's just only usually when I'm thinking about people who knew about the abuse. So, because it's a girl down the street who was a teenager, used to babysit me once in a while, and they had a 2-story house. This was the only 2-story house on the block because we lived in kind of a poor neighborhood. But they had built a second story on top of their 1-story house. Their father had this done. They had a second level put up for bedrooms and stuff upstairs. So it's kind of the nicest house on the block, I guess you might want to say. Because it wasn't a rich neighborhood. There was no 2-story houses. And so she used to play with me on the stairs. And I remember this had to be before, because I was still in diapers. So this has to be 2 years old, maybe even just kind of turning 3 or something. And she used to slide down the stairs on her butt, like boom, boom, like that, from the bedroom down to the lower levels. And she would have me on her lap and she'd be doing this just for something to do for fun, right? And because I was just a baby, like a toddler, right? And she said, "Oh, better check your diaper." I remember this. This is a very clear memory to me. And she said, and she said, "Oh, she saw bruises on my butt, right?" And she's like, "Oh, is your mom beating on you again?" And I was just like, "Yes." And that's just bizarre that I can actually remember that. And I really wish that I could contact her and see if she remembered that. Just bizarre stuff, memories that will come of people that actually knew how my parents were treating their children, and it's just, these things are so sad that they really are. Just goes so far back. I have no idea how much I was beaten on before the age of 4. You know what I mean? I know after 4 I was beaten on quite regularly. And all of my siblings, all of us, so not just me. But before 4, I just wonder, I really do, like what were my parents thinking? You know what I mean? Like they didn't care. And that's the way they were brought up. They were like, we got it, you're gonna get it, and that's such a sad situation for people, it really is. So many children have been abused as babies, 6-month-old. Look at the headlines. People are killing their 6-month-old babies, what I mean, and under. And it's just horrific, right? We just managed to survive. It's like, okay, that's, I mean, I didn't used to think it was such a good thing. Now I'm very happy, but because those children would never get a chance to live, right? And I did. That's why I want to make the best of it. But it's just so disturbing, right? These things, and just to think about, wow, I wonder just how much abuse was done to my body before I was even 3, before I have those cognitive memories. That really, I remember being very fearful as a baby, like as a child, because I remember crying and crying. And because my parents were always fighting, they were always bashing each other with, glassware and lamps and trashing the living room and, beating on each other. So the noise from that used to really scare me, obviously, as a tiny little kid, under the age of 3, or 4. After that, I just remember the stuff. It was very scary to grow up in that. And also just the abuse towards my siblings, because they were all quite a bit older than me. The next one, closest in age to me, is 5.5 years older, my sister. So my brother was the brother next to that was 7 years older than me. And then the next one after that was 9 years older than me, so quite a bit older. And so when I was 2, that made them 10, 11. And my parents used to beat on them. Absolutely. That's why my parents were brought up on child abuse charges. So they were arrested. They had to go to court. They were cuffed and taken downtown to the court, to the police station. They were busted. Yeah. But what they did was they just, because back in the 60s, it was kind of like, you want to beat on your kids, whatever. But what they did was they told my parents, because it wasn't, they didn't feel that the abuse was life threatening. So they said, well, you've got to stop doing this to your children, and you need to get help. Well, my mom was begging the courts to let us stay. Now, this I heard all my life. My mom used to use this as a weapon against my dad, because my parents were always fighting all my life, all their lives, that they were married. And my mom would use this stuff as manipulation so that I would take her side. See? And she would say stuff like, well, your father was beating on the children, and, the court said that they were going to remove all of you, but I told them I wanted my children. That's what my mother would tell me. I wanted my children. Right? And, I was like, well, you got a sure good way of showing you really love us and care about us, right? Beating on us all, calling us names, horrible, horrible, horrible. Hi, Laura. Oh, thank you for the hug. I really appreciate it. I'll send one back to you. Hugs. Thank you. I love hugs. But it's just like, it's so horrific, it's like years later, at the age of 29, my mom, tells me that she never wanted any of us in the first place. And I already knew this. Obviously, we all did, right? All of my siblings knew that she didn't want us. But the thing is I got it from her mouth. And she was so in my face. I never wanted you. I said, so when the courts told you guys that they were going to remove us if you didn't stop abusing us, you could have let us go. You could have just let us go. So instead of that, you kept us and you just abused us. I said, you put us through that, all of that for nothing. You know what I mean? And she's like, I never wanted any of you, just like almost demonic. It's like, I was like, oh, okay, I see. I cut ties with her. She died the next year. So just horrific what people do to their children, and so these memories come around. I'm in the present, I'm not in the past. I'm not being abused, but they are painful, and they do, until I deal with it and look at it and pretty much mourn it is what it is. Mourn and grieve for the loss of my childhood and what I didn't get, what I really needed, which was love and care, and just being looked after. Like, we were never taken to the doctor, never. Because my parents were brought up on abuse charges, so they were not going to take us to the doctor, And there were many times I should have been hospitalized. I should have been taken to the doctor, and I got no doctor attention whatsoever. I got my shots because my parents had to do the shots with the schools. I got my immunization shots and all that, for polio vaccine and all that. But we didn't get taken to the doctor for any of our injuries. None of my siblings. It's like, none of us. It's not just me, right? And I'm like, those buggers, because they didn't want to be looked at as bad parents. See, they didn't care that they were hurting us. It wasn't that. But they didn't want people to think they were these bad people abusing their children, right? So they, we can't take them. It's not that they didn't want to lose it. They didn't care if they lost us. They didn't care if we died. The issue is that they didn't want people to look down on them. and then be like, well, look at what they're doing to their children, you know. So it was all about, oh, we got to make it look good to the, you know, got to make it look like our children are just a bunch of losers, and we're the good people. And you know, so that's what they did, and the neighbors actually bought it. And the neighbors, you know, all those neighbors, we lived on that street my whole youth, the whole time I was growing up, except for a few years. We lived a few blocks over because my dad sold the house out from under my mom. I wrote about this in Life of Death, Redemption, all of that's there. But he wanted to move to Canada. And um, just bizarre. So he sold the house out from under my mom. It was just this old kind of house, not worth much. But they got a few $1,000. And so he moved us to Canada for 3 months, and then we moved back to New Mexico. So with nothing, no house, no nothing. My mom was just like, okay. She was at the end of her rope, man. With all of these kids, unbelievable. And so we moved 2 blocks away to this other street, but we were very close. I used to still play with those neighborhood kids that I grew up with because I only had to walk 2 blocks over to get there. So all of these people knew about the abuse. They knew about this stuff, and they were just like, "Oh, it's that crazy Smith family. It's just that crazy Smith family." And they just looked down on the children mainly, and because they had a relationship with my parents, because they would invite my parents over for, you know, not all the neighbors liked us, not all the neighbors liked my parents either, and not all of them associated with my parents on the block. But we grew up on this block for years. The last time I was on that block, I wrote a book with Vita Juvies. That's the block I lived on for 18 years, actually a little bit longer, 19 years. And we finally moved off that block. Much, you know, I was already considered an adult when we moved off that block. So people knew what my parents were doing, you know. Well, they used to beat us out in the front yard, you know. They didn't care. They didn't care who saw what they did to us. And then it was always, oh, those, you know, they're driving me crazy and they're just these horrible children. And the neighbors would just be like, we know, to my mom, I'm beating the rat shit, you know. Seriously, I mean, how could people be so blind, right? But they are. And they just have these relationships with the adults and they don't care about the children. They really don't. And they see the children as the way that the parents see the children. Oh, it's such a heavy burden for you, you know, and you don't have any support. So they were very supportive to my mom and to my dad even. And my dad was abusing my mom. And they just blew that right under the covers, kind of like, oh, well, you know, we don't really like him because he abuses you, but because he's your husband, we'll treat him nicely, sort of thing. You know what I mean? He wasn't really highly respected on the block because he was beating up my mother, but nobody cared. It was kind of like, oh well. So my mom would go crying to the neighbors. Oh, my husband, and I've got these rotten kids. And Laurie, that little rotten bitch. That was my name, Laurie, the rotten bitch. So that's how I grew up. I laugh about it now because I'm like, it was so false information. It really was. You know, I was just this little kid who just wanted love and care and attention. You know, like good attention, not bad attention. It's really sad what people do. It's just bizarre. Just knowing that it's sort of strange to know that so many people knew about the abuse and nobody did anything about it. And that's just the case. It's what's going on today. You know, I don't know how people could be like that. There were a few people that would talk to my mom. They'd be like, "What are you doing? You're like destroying your kid. You're trying to destroy her. That's what you're doing." You know. And then she'd just, you know, oh no, she deserves that and worse. You know, that's what she would say. She deserves worse beatings than I give her. She deserves that and worse. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, terrible, absolutely terrible. And then, you know, and then it's kind of like, oh well, the same people that my mom was telling that to, I used to go to Kansas with in the summertime sometimes. Like they'd go to visit the husband's mother, so it was my friend's grandmother, and they had these 2 little daughters, and they were younger than me by a few years, and they would take me with them because my mom was happy to get me out of the house. She was like, yeah, go, whatever. So they would let me go with them, which was really cool because it got me away from my abusive mother and dad. So for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, and we'd go and we'd drive to Kansas, and we'd be driving in the van. It was like a 12-hour drive, and sometimes they would ask me like how things were at my house. They knew all about the abuse. And I was about 10 years old, like right in there, 10, 11. And and this was after, this was actually, it was just turning 10, I believe, because I had hit my dad in the head with a bat. It was a pink plastic bat, a jumbo bat. But I thought he was going to attack my mom. And because my mom had had surgery, and a horrible surgery that they didn't think she was going to make it. And but she had to have it to save her life. She was either going to die or live, one way or the other. So she had to have the surgery. It was mandatory because she was dying, but they weren't sure if she was going to make it. So then she was healing in the bedroom, like a couple weeks later, trying to heal from this massive major surgery that she had. And my dad was in there bothering her. And I thought that, and she was telling him to leave the room, and she was very upset. Like she didn't want him in there. I think she thought maybe he would try to rape her or something, because my dad was always trying to rape my mother. And so, because she wasn't sleeping with him, so he'd rape her. So she was hollering and yelling, and I thought, there's no way that bugger is going to kill my mother. Even though my mother was my main abuser, I still felt that she deserved protection. She was laying in a bed trying to heal from the surgery that she was sliced from her breastbone all the way down to her privates. She was buttoned up, like it was such a bad situation for her. And she had so much scar tissue they couldn't even sew it. They had to put buttons in. Unbelievable. So she was in a lot of pain, and she was really sick. And I thought, that bugger, if he tries to rape her or something, he could kill her, So I was 9 years old. So the first thing in my mind was to take my big pink jumbo plastic bat and go hit him in the head. And I did. I smacked him in the back of the head with it as hard as I could. And I was like, leave her alone. Well, I took a beating for that. I got thrown around, thrown in the room, thrown across the room into a wall. But the thing is that those people, yeah, that's right. I'm like, there's no way, he's going to get away with this. So yeah, he was a little pissed off, right? Because it didn't really do much damage to him. It sent his glasses across the room because he wore glasses, and his glasses flew off across the room. I mean, I hit him hard. If it was a wood bat, he would have been dead, absolutely, or aluminum. I'm thankful it was plastic, because I wouldn't have wanted to be up on murder charges at the age of 9 years. At the age of 9, but the thing is, I mean, he was one of my abusers too. But he was always abusing all of us, and I was like, "You're not going to kill mom," So that's the first thing I thought, was to protect her, So I went in and smacked him with that bat. But I told those people about that on the drive to Kansas. And I was like, yeah, I had to hit my dad in the head with a bat, with my pink plastic bat. And I was just around 10, like just turning 10. And they were just laughing. Well, I mean, I'm just laughing now, because now I can laugh about it. At the time, it wasn't funny. But they just laughed. They thought it was funny. And they were like, oh. But they didn't even, realize, like, he could have killed her, you know what I mean? Or either that, or he could have killed me. So it was kind of like they just laughed the abuse off, And so many people did. And they, I think they were kind of thinking, good for you, because my dad was always abusing my mom. They didn't like him that much. See? So they were probably thinking, good for you. But the thing is like, they don't realize the damage he did to my body after that, right? I took a good beating for that. And, I was knocked unconscious pretty much, like hurt my back, And it's just like, I guess you could say maybe I deserved it, hit my dad with a bat. The thing is like, no child should have to go through that ever. You know what I'm saying? It's just not okay, the stuff that people put children through, right? And then so many people on the outside may have suspicions, or even know that the abuse is going on, but hey, it's not their place, not their business. All those people would have had to do would be to report to the courts, because my parents were busted on child abuse charges and they knew this. All they would have had to do was go and make a report, and we would have been removed from the home. Absolutely. And my parents were told that they had to stop abusing us, and that the only way we were going to be allowed to remain in the home is if they got help. Right? And so they were supposed to get counseling for their marital issues, and they were supposed to get counseling for their own personal mental illness, and the family was supposed to have family counseling, but they only went to 2 sessions, right? So they would have been busted again, and they would have lost us. We would have been removed, right? but it was also kept so hush hush. It's kind of like, oh well, you know. And that's sad. It really is. Hi, Passaggio Olivello. Good evening. How are you? I hope your day's gone good. Yeah, I'm just talking about some stuff from the past. People knew about the abuse, and so many of them didn't. They just didn't do anything about it. Some of them were actually even sheriffs and police officers. The one lady, a friend of mine down the street, a little girl that I used to play with, she was 4 years younger than me. Her name was Shannon, and her mom was a sheriff, and her name was Cheryl. She knew my family. She knew my siblings. My older siblings used to hang around with her when they were teens, so they all grew up together. My older siblings and her. So she knew about the abuse. Absolutely, she did. And I used to go and play with her daughter, and because they lived on the same street, and her grandparents did too. They lived across the street from her mother, like her grandparents. So it's kind of all the family stuff, you know what I mean? But she used to say stuff like she'd see the marks and stuff and the bruises on my body and stuff, like on my shoulders, my neck, and my face. She'd be like, "Is your mom beating on you again?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." She'd be like, "Well, you need to be a good girl so she doesn't hit you like that." And I'm thinking, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even doing anything so that she would do this to me. You know, that's abuse. You know what I'm saying? It's not discipline. It's when somebody is trying to destroy a child, right? That's what abuse is. It's just horrific, right? And I mean, that's just the issue. I wasn't doing anything to warrant that abuse. It's just my parents' really dysfunctional way of handling even being in the same room with their children, you know? So it's just horrible, right? But this is the stuff that we've been put through. And then what do you do with it, right? But I was sitting around thinking about that because I thought a lot of people knew what was going on and didn't really do anything about it. Right? And some of them tried to be really nice to me because they knew that my mom wasn't. So some of these people were actually really nice to me when I was growing up. But the nicer thing would have been to actually report my parents for abuse again and get us removed. The older siblings, were, already 18 or so, like my sister was 5.5 years older than me. So by the time I was 10, she was 15 and a half. I'm 13, she's 18 and a half. See? So the biggest bulk of the heavy physical abuse for me was pretty much from, I'd say, like the really damaging stuff from like 8 to 17. So my siblings were quite a bit older than me. So there were a lot of them not even in the house anymore. They could have got me some help. I could have just said, I want help. But this was our life. And I was told that by my mom all my life. This is our life. This is what we do. This is, and if you've got a problem with it, you let me know. That's what my mom used to say to me. She was tough, man. She was you didn't want to mess with her. She was really tough. I'm telling you. And a lot of my attitude probably comes from her. Sort of this kind of punky, standoffish kind of attitude. I'm sure I picked that up from her. She was actually very. My mom was just trying to protect herself. She was abused as a child, and then abused in this marriage. She really didn't want all these kids. I don't even think she knew how to be a mother. My oldest sister, who was 18 years older than me, um, used to talk to me a little bit about stuff. She wouldn't talk too much about the abuse, but she would say stuff like, mom never knew how to be a mom. Even I was the first, you're the last. And look at all the stuff that happened in between. She had no clue how to do love. She had no clue how to do the mother thing, you know, and she really didn't want to be needed, by a child who needs something. That was mainly where a lot of the abuse came from, was just needing lunch money. It's like, or needing something, you know what I mean? It's like we weren't allowed to have needs, because really her needs came first. And my sister kind of pointed that out. She was like, yeah, she was very selfish. Her needs really were the first. They really mattered. Like, she didn't care about anybody else's needs. It was about her. It was about her needs. And that's really what the whole issue was. But I think it's because she was so wounded herself. But I never excuse abuse. There's no excuse for it. So I don't have a problem separating it out. You know what I mean? Some people would be like, oh, but it's okay. Some of my siblings were like that. Oh, it's okay. Mom just, we love her. And I'm like, yeah, I love mom. But what she did was incredibly wrong. incredibly well. And really, would I have wanted my parents to go to jail? I've had some of the comments. I still got to get to some of those comments. Actually, things keep coming up, and then sometimes I'm tired, and I don't want to answer them when I'm tired because then I'll just be some quick, I really want to get back to all of the comments. And, there's quite a few that I haven't answered yet. So, but I need to get on it. But the thing is, I do have people asking me, would you have wanted your parents to do time or my brother? And I mean, that part of me that loved them so much, of course, would not. No. I mean, what I wanted, and I realized this in my early 20s, even though I hadn't done my healing journey stuff, I wanted them to love it. I wanted them to love me. Right? I mean, just speaking for myself instead of all of my siblings, I just wanted them to love me and care about me and stop fighting and start being good to each other. That's what I wanted because I loved them, and that's the thing. When I was a teen, I thought I hated them because maybe I did actually hate them at the time, because of the abuse and just the way that, especially my mom was treating me. And my dad, he was always kind of very aloof. I never really cared about him because he was beating on my mom all the time, and my siblings. And I was just like, whatever. I used to feel sorry for him sometimes. Like I said in my book, I feel sorry for him sometimes. Yeah, a little bit of compassion towards him because he was so mentally ill. But the thing is he was a bad, abusive man. I was like, I really don't want any thing from him. You know what I mean? So I didn't care about him really all that much. But my mom, I really did because I could see she was a victim in this, even though she was my abuser, my main abuser. So very, very hard. Of course, I wouldn't have wanted my parents to do time. What I wanted them to do was stop abusing us and start getting help for their marital problems and learn to actually love each other and love themselves. What I wanted wasn't to fix the family, but it was really way too far gone. It was so far gone before I was even born. That's the issue. It was a mess. And so the thing is would I wanted them to do time? No. Did they deserve to do time? Absolutely. Mm. And especially my brother sexually abusing me. They don't quite often for survivors of incest. I don't know if people realize this. There's hardly ever a conviction. They'll hardly ever do time. Somebody in the family sexually abusing another person, unless it's somebody who, like, they can really, for instance, sometimes a father figure, stepfather, or a father who sexually abuses his small children, they might actually get a conviction on that. But if it's sibling incest, no. They say, oh, counseling. They both need counseling. Right? So he wouldn't have done any time anyway. Even if my mom would have done the right thing and got me some help, got me to a doctor and got him busted, which he didn't do. So he wouldn't have done time. No. He would have just been told, you need counseling for your issues. It's not okay to rape your sister. You know what I'm saying? So these things are really horrific. And then I have to be okay with it because I have to love myself. You know what I'm saying? So this is where, at the end of the day, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I can't change that. You know what I mean? But the only thing I really have any control over is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And so, I don't go into this denial thing of, oh, the past is the past. I'm not going to worry about it. Some of these memories do come. And when they do, I just go ahead and remember, well, instead of remembering so much the abuse, what I do is then I'll say, okay, I'm going to spend some time doing some self nurturing, some self soothing for my inner wounded child that I was, and honor that little girl, who really just wanted love, just wanted to be loved, just wanted care and love, because that's what all children want. And it's just a sad situation. So there's not much I can do. Just keep going. You know what I mean? But these things are so hard. So many times people don't have validation. Yet other people will have seen the abuse, and then everybody's like, "Oh well, was it really that bad?" or are you sure? Maybe you're just making it up. You know, because most abused children are not taken to the doctor. Because that's the whole issue. The parents, whoever the caregiver is, or whoever the person is that abused that child. Sometimes it's not even within the family. We know abuse happens outside the family, obviously. So whoever the abuser is, that child's not gotten any help. There's no report made and there's no validation. And then people are like, maybe, are you sure that really happened? Maybe you were just dreaming it. It's like, okay, sure. Because some of this stuff happens when people are really young. So then they almost think that they're maybe crazy because, you know, they have these memories and these sort of feelings that they were abused. And then they're like, you know, they know something happened, and maybe somebody else knows too, another family member or somebody else who knew, but they're not saying nothing. That leaves the survivor sitting there going, am I absolutely nuts? You know what I mean? And it's like, no, more than likely not. That's just the issue. I'm going to be doing work on coming up here for the next few months, at least in the next so many months, CSH health sexual abuse. That's the work I'm going to do because that's the last stuff that I really want to work through. And it's like, I'm telling you, these things are so hard. They really are. And it's, I shared a bedroom with my sister. This is the issue. My sister, being 5.5 years older than me, was quite often not home. You know what I mean? So when I was 8 years old, she was 13 and a half and gone. It's kind of like, I sit there and I'm like, and she didn't know, because the issue is I remember. See, I remember exactly what happened, and what's really bizarre is to actually go back and put myself in that place to actually validate what I went through, and the issue is I know, well, I know my mom knew because I told my mom what my brother was doing after the third assault, because I was getting sick. I had an infection and I was getting sicker and sicker, and I was very sick. I'm not going to go into too many details here. But the thing is my mom just told me, well, it's your problem, not mine. What do you want me to do about it? And I'm like, well, he's hurting me. What am I supposed to do? I was like 8 years old, 8.5 years old, And my mom was like, well, wrap yourself up like a mummy at night. That was her answer. She wasn't going to get me any help, man. And so I actually did wrap myself up like a mummy. And it didn't stop anything. You know what I'm saying? It didn't help. So, the issues is like, it's just horrific what people do. People know and they won't get that child any help. She eventually shipped him off to Canada, thank God, right? But the thing is it was a little too late, right? And then didn't get me any help. And then I was just a whore. I was a slut, all the rest of my days, that's what I had to hear from my mother. And the thing is the rest of the family just whatever. Whether they knew or not, I don't know. They may have. It may have never said anything to me. That's why I told my sister, when I wrote the One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, the journey, I told her, we were sitting in her car, and I said, Rob sexually abused me when I was 8 to 9, pretty much 8 to 9. It was almost a year. She didn't say anything. She just sat there with this blank slate. That's what I always got from my family, either anger or a blank slate. And I'm like, I don't need this anymore, man. I kind of expected her to say, oh, I don't believe you, or are you sure? Because, she, even if she didn't believe me, I sort of expected maybe that she would say something like that. She didn't say anything. So I have a real sneaky feeling that she knew about it. And nobody comforted me. Nobody tried to get me any help. No, not even her. So if she knew about it, that may be why she didn't say anything about it. She might have sat. She might have had to go back in her memory banks and think, oh, because I seriously think that my mom thought that I wouldn't remember it. Of course, you remember stuff when you're 8 years old, right? Most people do. Some people maybe don't, but most people, I think, have memories of being 7, 6, 7, 8 years old. And it's like, I think that's the issue. My mom was probably just thinking, oh, maybe she won't remember it. So my sister might have had, who knows how many people knew about this, that my brother had raped me and sexually abused me, right? Unbelievable. And I never got any support from them, right? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to get a hold of myself. I mean, I wrote a book about it, so it's not like I don't know what happened. The issue is I'm going to go back and do the self-care, the self nurturing that needs to be done for my wounded child, who I did actually do some already, but I'm going to finish the work. And I think I'll feel a lot better. But the thing is, these things are so horrific, right? So many people know about the abuse, but they just don't do anything. They don't say anything. And, it might be because they're just trying to protect themselves. Right? Still the wrong thing to do, you know, to just allow it to go on so that you can keep yourself protected. That's kind of like, that's garbage. It really is. It's like, that's not okay. Right? So, yeah, if you don't have any validation, people are telling you you're crazy and trying to gaslight you, don't pay any attention to those people. You know, go find yourself your own. Like I've seen several posts on Facebook lately. Go find your tribe. I like that. Go find your tribe, man. Yeah, your real family. That's what I did, and I'm really glad and thankful that I did that because I finally stood up for myself against my abusive family and said, "Well, I'm not going to say it here," but I said, "F off." You know what I mean? 2010, I cut them off. 2011, right in there, and I'm like, "You're out of my life, man. You're gone. I'm not taking that from anybody. I'm not taking any more of your crap." You know what I'm saying? And the fact, and even just your lack of concern for me and what I've been through, because they saw the books, they knew what I was doing, writing those books, and they were pretty shocked that I would do this. And my siblings that were alive at the time, and they never came to console me. They never called me to come to their house and say, "Look, let's sit down. Let's do a sibling hug. We certainly didn't deserve this. You didn't deserve this. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing." No, I didn't get anything. I got I got told that I was just an idiot, and why would I want to go public with this stuff? Because they can't deny it. Nobody can come and say, "Oh, she's lying through her teeth," because it's all absolutely true. Yeah, you mad said that, sort of reiterating, yeah, the most disturbing part to me when it came to the point in my recovery where I realized that so many people must have known and did nothing. Yeah, absolutely. This is the issue. It's like people generally, there's somebody that knows. Not always. I mean, there are cases where it's very covert, and maybe that person is so good at hiding tracks and hiding things, and has that child so scared they're not telling nobody, that the abuse is unchecked. But generally somebody knows. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like that's where I was with my sister sitting in that car. She didn't say anything. I expected. I kind of wanted her to say, "I'm sorry that happened to you," and then just hug me. That's all. That's all I wanted. I kind of thought maybe she might have been sexually abused by him because she was 5.5 years older than me. And I thought, well, maybe if I tell her that it was Rob right to her face who sexually abused me from 8 to 9, maybe that if he did abuse her sexually too, maybe that would open up the door for her to say something back to me, right? Whether he did or didn't, right? Because I'm not sure, I don't know. So, she didn't say anything. Nothing. She didn't say anything. I just got out of the car and I had quit smoking for a year at that time. And I went to the store and bought a pack of smokes. I'm like, I need a cigarette, man. I need something because I don't drink and I don't do drugs anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'll go get some cigarettes, man. I need to smoke. And I came up to my apartment and I realized, I wrote about it in my book. I just realized I'm in this alone, man. You know what I mean? My abusive abuser family will never be there for me, not even as an adult. They will never, ever be able to be there for me. They hate my guts. They always have. They always will. But that's what was killing me for so long because I then had this hatred in my heart for myself and for them. And I thought, no, I'm just going to get rid of them. They're gone. I don't ever have to talk to them ever again or deal with them. It makes me happy. I cut them off. Now they're mostly dead. There's only one person in my family left. That's my sister. She's over 60 now. So, we're all getting older. But the thing is I've got peace in my heart and I've got love in my heart for all of my wounded children, all of myself that were abused in every way. And I love myself. I certainly did not deserve that. You know, I love myself as an adult today, a very imperfect person who's got all kinds of troubles, and I still love myself. And that allows me to love life, and it allows me to love other people. And to be honest, I was talking about that on my show yesterday on the One Child to Be Survivor to Another, just removing the mask and letting people see me, the real me. And that's, I used to have love in my heart when I was a little kid, see, and I got it back. Yeah. They tried to take that. They did. They did. They took that away from me, and they put hatred in me. They put their own hatred. I'm talking about my, especially my abusers, my mom and my dad, my brother, and they tried to destroy that little girl, you know, but they couldn't. They couldn't do it. That makes me happy, man. That's why I'm happy, because I'm like, you know what? This is my victory, man. That's why I wrote my victory poem. I really did. It's on my website if you want to check it out. It's my victory. They couldn't kill me. No, they couldn't get me to destroy myself, and they even couldn't even get me to have a horrible rest of my life, because I'm enjoying life now. And I love that person that I was, that little girl that everybody kicked around and mistreated. You know, all my family, and I love her. I really do. And so I don't need them to do that for me, because I love her. So that makes everything a lot better. It'll never completely be okay, because the abuse was not okay. But the thing is it's my victory, because I'm learning to love life. Like, I mean, I do love life now. There's, like I said, part of me hates this life because I hate evil, and I hate evil people, and I hate people who abuse children. I really do, and I always curse them to hell. I really do. It's kind of like, I'm kind of vicious about it. I'm like, I'm just like waiting for God to get a hold of them. I really am, because that's going to be the ultimate best thing is when God gets a hold of somebody who's abused a child. Absolutely, it's going to be wonderful, and I can't wait, because he's going to have some things to say to those people and to do to them. Absolutely, you can't get away with abusing a child. You just can't. You might get away with it on the earth, but you're not going to get away with it with the Creator Maker. Not going to happen. So that's what I'm waiting for. So I curse them all to hell. And do I want my mom to be in hell? No. I kind of think, the issue is um, that's my way. That's almost my little inner children who were abused, allowing to voice their anger. You know what I'm saying? It just allows that wounded part of myself to say, you may have got away with it on the earth, but you're not going to get away with it for eternity. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm hoping, actually, kind of, that there will be repercussions for those people, because so many abusers get away with it on the earth. They always have, and they always will. And, lots get busted, thank God, but not, there's so many that don't. And they are allowed to just get away with it, and they keep doing it, and it's just horrific, right? So, that's kind of my way of just letting a little bit of that anger come out. But, we certainly didn't deserve that, So it's my victory, that's what I'm saying. And I know, I mean, my sister, I don't know what she's doing, I haven't seen her I cut them off. Like I said, I cut all my family off. So I haven't seen her for a long time. I haven't talked to her for a long time. And I don't know, she's just doing her thing, I'm sure, but she's very much in denial. And so she doesn't even know who she is, really. She doesn't have a clue. She would ask me stuff about herself, what she was doing. She doesn't have any kind of clue of who she is. And the great thing about it is I know exactly who I am. And I love myself. So regardless of whether my family loved me, cared about me, or anything like that, that used to hurt me, see. That was very, very hard on me to realize that my family really did not care about me and actually hated me. That's terrible, but it's true. And people say, "Oh, that's not true. Maybe they just didn't know how to deal with you and all this stuff." No, that's not it. You have to see the whole big picture. You know what I mean? Of how they treated me, all the way from my oldest sister, all the way down to my next sister of my age. Um, One of my siblings who was killed at the age of 19, Chess, was really nice to me. But who knows how he would have been as an adult? I really don't know. But he used to be nice to me when I was a little kid. He was kind of a good guy in the family, and he was murdered at the age of 19. So, but the thing is, all of that stuff that they did, they tried to destroy me with, right? And then I just tried to destroy myself later, because I'm like, well, I'll just finish the job. You know what I mean? And then without realizing that's what I was doing. See? I was basically just finishing the job. And that's what my siblings did too. And my brothers killed themselves, like I said, horrific stuff. So now I'm like, you know what? No, it's my victory, man. Yeah, it feels good. It really does. Because I leave this earth suit, when I leave this earth, like when it's my time to go, I'm gonna leave with my head held high. Absolutely. And I'm gonna be like, I win, because all of my abusers went to their grave in a sorrowful pit of kind of agony. You know what I mean? They weren't sorry for what they did, but they were so filled with hatred that they left this earth with hatred and horrible stuff in their heart, you know? And so they never fixed it before they passed away, unable to for some reason, whatever the reason was. So me, I'm like, I think I might be one of the only ones who's leaving with a victory, because my sister died of cancer. She was not a happy woman. My oldest sister, who was the oldest in the family, like I said on my show yesterday, I think I was talking about that. They had a horrible life. She was abused as a child. Then she had this horrible kind of marriage with her husband, but where she was the abuser, she was going to let him get the upper hand. So she was horrible to him, to her husband and to her children too. But they didn't have a lot of love for their children. Let's just put it that way. Right. I'm not going to go into too many details because my nephew living today wouldn't like that. But they weren't good to their children. And so, it's just horrific what people do. So she left. She never got to resolve any of that stuff. She didn't want my dad to be there when she passed away. And my dad really wanted to be there. And she was just, it was just such a sad situation. My dad should not have been allowed to be there when she passed away. She didn't want him there. You know what I'm saying? So when my dad passed away in 2016, I cut them off in 2010. I told him, I said, I won't be going to your funeral. And I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I won't be speaking to you ever again. And I won't be going to your funeral at all. And but we left. I left him, sitting on a park bench. That's the last time I saw him at his senior place. And I'm glad I didn't go to his funeral, because I told my mother that I wasn't going because of all the beatings that he dished out on her, pushing her and shoving her into walls and breaking furniture over her body and hurting her, and hurting her body and raping her and hurting her children, which she hurt her children too. But I'm just saying he was part of it. There was no way I was going to honor that man by going to his funeral. No. So I didn't, and I'm really glad that I didn't. It's like, yeah. See, I got a lot of little victories in there, because it's like, yeah, I'm strong enough to stand up and say, no, no, no more. I'm not playing that role anymore. And I'm not your little, punching bag anymore. And even as an adult, I'm not going to be your punching bag with your verbal, psychological, emotional garbage coming at me. Forget it. So this is the thing, it's my victory. Right? And I made clear decisions and clear choices, like on what I was going to do, what I wasn't going to do. And I'm glad I stuck with it. Really glad. Because of course there was times where I was kind of sad that, especially that I cut my sister off, because I miss her. I really do. She wasn't really a good friend to me as a child. She's 5.5 years older, but people say, well, because she was abused too, so obviously she had problems. But the thing is later in life, we really didn't develop that great of a relationship, and we wanted to kill each other all the time. It's kind of like, we didn't want to kill each other. We wanted to like rip each other to pieces. Let's just put it that way. We wanted to like beat each other to pulp. That's not good, right? We're not even talking a girl, kind of spat with, maybe some nails flying or something. We wanted to literally destroy each other. So it's kind of like, let's not be together. Let's not, because it's going to end up bad. You know what I mean? So we can't be around each other. We just can't. That's too bad. Right? It really is. But I'm glad I cut her off, because I'm not taking any of the garbage anymore. And it doesn't mean that I don't love her. I really do. And I always wish my sister the very best. And her daughter, and my niece, because I love her very much. But the two of them are in such denial. And it's because they don't want to think about mom being, a mean person, who cracked my head open with the rolling pin and let my brother rape me. They don't really want to think about that. So they want to think about mom. She made the most wonderful cookies in the whole world, and all of this. And it's like, well, my mom was a great cook and a great baker, but that doesn't mean like what she did was okay, right? She ruined my eyesight. She damaged my eyes. Like the beatings that she dished out on my head are unbelievable. The damage done is like permanent, and there's nothing I can really do about it. So like this woman should have been, really, she should have been busted. I should have been removed from the home. My sister sit there, oh mom, we just love her, but they would never come to me and say, what mom did to you was so wrong. You know, really was. Like my mom was abusing them too, but not to that degree. I mean, she, really, like this is just terrible. So that's why I'm like, you know what? That's okay. Because me, I love myself. So regardless of what they think or what my one sister living today thinks, I really don't care. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Too bad. Too bad for you. Because I've got love in my heart for myself. And I know right from wrong. Abuse is wrong. That stuff was wrong. Never should have happened. Do I love my mother? Absolutely. I still do. You know what I mean? But do I excuse her behavior? Not at all. I'm able to do that where she's not able to do that. See, and that's why many abuse survivors can't uh, put the blame where it goes. So they'll quite often blame themselves or other circumstances for the abuse and make some sort of an excuse for it, right? And it's like, no, because there is no excuse for abuse, man. We may still love those people, but it doesn't mean what they did was right. And, do I love my brother, the one who raped me? Honestly, no. You know, I don't really, I can't because that was so horrific, what he did to me. And like, I go back into my memory banks and I remember just him in the house and the way that the way that whole year went with him raping me. And I'm just like, no, I don't love him. Do I feel sorry for him? Absolutely. Because he was the one who was most abused by my dad. And he's the reason why my parents were brought up on abuse charges. My dad had beaten him up really badly. This is the thing. He was abused, and I'm kind of I can't prove it, but I think that my dad sexually abused him. I really do. And I kind of think that's why he did that to me. Because I actually walked in on a situation where he was on the floor with my dad, and they were both naked, right? And he was yelling for help. And then my dad yelled at me to shut the door because I was like maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 years old, very young. And he told me to shut the door. And I got scared because my dad would beat me if I didn't do what he said. So I shut the door and I just wandered off. So I seriously, I think my dad sexually abused my brother. He was just the most abused of the family for sure. But I can't prove it because, it's so long ago, right? And would my brother, if he was living today, admit to that? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And my dad would even remember that he did that. Who knows? My dad, he's passed away quite a few years ago now, but he was an old man, right? Whether he'd remember that stuff, I don't know, because he was very mentally ill. Obviously, do that to your family, right? So I don't know if he sexually abused him or not. Really don't know, but it's something was going on there. That's all I know. So, do I do feel sorry for my brother, but I don't love him. No, no, there's no possible way. Because what he did was extremely evil and twisted. And so, no, I don't love him. But I do still have love in my heart especially for my mom, because I always wanted her love, never got it, but I kind of still, part of me wants to think that I still love her. You know what I mean? And my dad, not really. You know what I mean? Kind of like, no, no respect for him. I just, do I feel sorry for him? Definitely. Because my parents ruined this opportunity to have this wonderful life with their children. Like, I sometimes I think about that because all of our, it wasn't just me being abused, it was the whole abusive situation. So sometimes I'll think about like what life would have been like had my parents been good to each other and not abused each other and then took really good care of us, and what kind of a family life we would have had. And sometimes I'll sit around and think about that and I'll be like, man, it would have been nice. You know what I mean? I can't imagine growing up in a home where people are treated decently. I really can't. Because I watch TV shows, like for instance, people would laugh at me, but I don't give a shit. Obviously, I'm on here talking all the time. I watch Little House on the Prairie, and the reason I watch Little House on the Prairie is because it shows normal relationships and how people should, how healthy treatment between parents and children and between children and parents really should be, right? That, they really focused on that. So for that, I watch that show because it helps me to see what a normal child would have actually gone through, most likely. You know what I mean? Not. I mean, all of our stories are different, but it does give me an idea of what that trust of your parents would be, to trust your parents, to get what you need from your parents. For instance, love and care and concern and that kind of stuff. I don't have no clue what that's like. See, so I watch those shows, those type of shows that are really family oriented, because it does help me to see what a really healthy parent-child relationship really is. You know what I mean? And then I sit there and I think, man, our family. What if our family was like that? You know, all sitting around having a good time and talking about our day, caring about each other. I try to envision what it would have been like with my family had my parents done the right thing, you know. And it's like, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But I do sometimes think about how wonderful it would have been. You know what I mean? What a tragedy. So really, the real losers in the situation were my parents, my abusers. They lost out on a wonderful relationship with all their children that they could have had, and they lost out on a wonderful relationship with me. Right? They're the losers, not me. I'm the winner. It's my victory, man. That's why I keep saying that. It truly is all the way around my victory, right? Because it's just sad. They missed out on my love, right? They missed out on having this loving relationship with their daughter and with all their children, right? So it's just sad. Hi, Melissa. I hope you're okay, and I hope you're feeling better. You take care of yourself with that situation you just had. You be sure and just take care of yourself. You're not late, actually. I had to start the show early because I have things I have to do today. I have kind of a full day of work to do, which really is no fun. But I got to get busy, so I had to move the show up a couple of hours, right? So you're not late. Sorry about that. And next Monday, I have a doctor's appointment in the morning, and I'll have to do the show an hour earlier. So I have to go bump that up to 8 instead of 9. So I'll do that show at 8 o'clock in the morning because I got to go get my cortisone shot for my ankle. Right? So uh, I'll be I'll have to bump the show up an hour because I have to be out of the house, right? So, but the rest of the week's all fine. It's just tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday, coming up Monday. The rest of the week will be fine. So. But you take good care of yourself, and all of you. We'll end now. It's been an hour me going on about this stuff, but I'm just saying it's my victory, and it can be yours too. Don't let your past destroy you. Seriously, if you need help, it doesn't matter what kind of help it is. There's no shame in asking for help. There really isn't. Sometimes people, when you get the wrong person, they'll make you feel like there's kind of some shame in asking for help, and then what you do is you just keep looking for somebody else who's actually a really good person who wants to help you, and because there are good people out there. You just might run into somebody who's having a bad day or just a bad personality issue or something. So keep looking for that help, right? Whatever it is you need for you, right? We're all different. And don't give up. Don't give up. Don't let those abusers win. That's what I say. It doesn't matter who the abuser is, because abuse happens from all types of situations, not just parents. For me, it was my parents. But the thing is, it could be anybody, right? Don't let that abuser win by you destroying your life or not getting your needs met. That's not okay, right? We deserve so much better. We really do. It's up to us to make it happen. Nobody else could do it for us. Right? Unfortunately, because that's what I always wish somebody else could do it for me. But it's like, no, I got to do it. So I've had to learn how to do all this stuff. Right? But the thing is don't allow yourself to go down because of what somebody did to you. That's not okay. Right? It's definitely not. And so many times family members will still try to continue on the dysfunction. Even people, you may know who knew about the abuse, who then treat you kind of differently because of it and stuff like that. Don't let those people do that to you. You know what I mean? You stand tall. You know what I mean? You're the victor in this. And it's like you don't have to feel lesser than because of what somebody did to you. You need to feel better than because of what somebody did to you, because they're the loser for doing that to you, right? My parents were the losers for doing what they did to their children and to me and my brother too. What a bunch of losers. They called me a loser, right? And they made me feel like I should be dead. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what? They're the losers, not me, right? So I win this fight. That's what I want you to do too. And if you can't cope, I always tell people, call a crisis line, do it. That's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm not going down because of what somebody did to me. Absolutely not. This is ridiculous. So you just stick it out and meet me back here, right? So I wish you a really good day, everybody. I really do. And a good night. Massage you on the bellow. And like if you're like, I know it's not going to be a good day for everybody. I mean, some days really suck, right? And Melissa, you take care of yourself, and we'll just keep looking for those better days. Because seriously, that's what I do. Sometimes it's months before you see a better day. Seriously, it's so hard. But the thing is that doesn't mean that a better day is not coming at some point, right? Because they generally do. You have to stick it out and just keep that steady thing going. You know what I mean? I'm going to get to next. I'm going to get to tomorrow. I'm going to get to tomorrow. It's kind of one step at a time, one day at a time. That's all we can really do. And that's why every day I'm just like, well, I'll try again tomorrow. You know what I mean? So take really good care of yourselves till the next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being with me. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. That just makes me feel really special. And I really hope that you take care of yourselves and you get something out of this. And at least, if anything, just to know that you didn't deserve that. You do count. You do matter. And you deserve a better, you deserve so much better. You deserve a good life. Right? Absolutely. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.